All right, Michael, we discussed the red chips. Now let's get to the blue chips, the elite of the elite as it pertains to safeties in the NFL. And I think for all fans, they're going to be really interested in this to know which guys are the dynamite impact players at this position. I think for bettors, I mean, we have a lot of bettors who listen to this show as well. These are the guys you want to pay attention to if they are affecting a point spread, if they're going to be out for a game or if they're going to be playing in a game, because these are the guys who actually move the needle. So, Michael, let's take a look at your list of blue chips in the NFL. You have Kevin Byard, the safety for the Tennessee Titans, multiple-time All-Pro. Justin Simmons of the Denver Broncos. He has never been a first-team All-Pro safety. Minkah Fitzpatrick, who just got paid cha-ching by the Pittsburgh Steelers, 26 years old, entering his fifth season. Derwin James of the Los Angeles Chargers, eligible for a contract extension, so Derwin James might send this tape out to his agent and to the LA Chargers. And then you have Micah Hyde of the Buffalo Bills, entering his age 32 season, 10th year in the NFL. And these are the names that popped up in my mind, Michael, so I'm glad that we are in simpatico with this list for safeties in the National Football League.
Yeah, and Jordan Poyer, also of Buffalo, was in consideration too, and I think Poyer's an outstanding player. I just put him below the category a little bit. I mean, I didn't put him in the red. I put him in the consideration. Makes a ton of tackles. He makes plays on the football. I just think Hyde's got more ability to cover. Now, both players came out the same time in the draft. Poyer was really good at Oregon State. He played corner there. They moved him inside. We took him off the practice squad when I was in Cleveland, and he was outstanding. And I loved Hyde coming out in college. I thought Hyde was a corner that could move into safety. But for me, Hyde is a little bit better because of his versatility and coverage. He had 86 tackles last year. You know, he's got the ability to kind of play all over. He makes plays on the ball. He had 10 passes broken up, so he's always around the game. I mean, the strength of the Bills, frankly, and I could have made this Poyer/Hyde in this category, to be fair, because the strength of the Bills is their safety play. Yeah. I mean, there's no team that gets better safety play. You could say Tennessee, because Hooker's a good player for Tennessee, but there's not a team that has better safety play than this team in Buffalo. I mean, Phillips in New England, to go along with Duger, they play pretty well. They got McCourty in there too, but they don't always play. It's McCourty and Duger. McCourty's not quite the same player that he once was. So, you know, for me, Hyde's really good. And then Derwin James, to me, a lot of tackles. I wish he made more plays on the football, you know, but he's still a good, effective tackler. Had 118 tackles last year, 5 passes broken up. Fitzpatrick, I mean, he's all over the field. He's got the most tackles of any safety in the football, 124. He's the highest paid safety. Do I think he's the best safety? Probably not. I like his coverage skills, his range. He had 7 passes broken up, 2 interceptions, but he creates fumbles and he creates turnovers. To me, Simmons is one of the best tacklers in the game. Like, I saw Simmons in college tackle Lamar Jackson when he played at Boston College. Simmons is smart. He's not a great man-to-man coverage guy. But all the intangibles that he has, he makes up for it. He had 4 tackles for loss. He had 5 interceptions. And he had 12 passes broken up, which is a lot for a safety, as you could see. I mean, he and Holland have double-digit safety broken. I mean, that's a lot for a safety to get 10, 12 passes broken up. And then Byard, I think Byard is the best safety in football. He had 88 tackles. He had 5 picks. He's 2 forced fumbles. I think he's around the ball quite a bit. He gets their defense lined up. He's dependable to play back there. I think he's been really a good player. From Middle Tennessee, I really liked him coming out in college. I thought he was going to be a good pro, and I think he really is.
It's interesting. I want to ask you about Derwin James because he is eligible for a contract extension, but he has the durability concerns. I mean, it was 2 years ago. He only played in about 5 games after he had the broken foot, I believe it was, in the offseason. He had durability concerns at Florida State back in college. Would you feel comfortable paying him that big-time contract? Because we saw Minkah Fitzpatrick get the big deal about a couple of weeks ago. James is going to surpass that just because that's how these things go. Would you feel confident in giving Derwin James that sort of money given his injury history?
Well, now that I know that I would protect myself, I think part of the thing you can do with contracts is protect yourself on roster bonuses, on game bonuses. If the guy's active, he's going to get this game. Now last year he played in 15 games, had 118 tackles. He had 7 tackles for losses. He hit the quarterback 7 times, so he's really good on level 1. He tackles well. He can tackle. Now, I wish he made more plays on the ball. He needed 5 passes defended. I mean, so you wish he was getting more active. But I think as you have a rookie quarterback, I think Derwin James is going to be one of your centerpieces to move forward. I would perhaps, safety, I think what we've seen with Duger, with Winfield, with Chin, I think you could find a Baker in the second round. I think it's a position where you could find a guy. Micah Hyde was a fourth rounder, I think, in Green Bay. Poyer was a seventh rounder that got cut. I mean, think about that, right? So I think you could find guys. Simmons, I think, was a second rounder, good player. Bayard was a third. I think you're kind of getting in that situation. Do you want to put that money? Now, if you have a star quarterback, you don't want to do it. To me, I would always constantly try to find young safeties that I think that were corners like Hyde and Poyer that we can move inside that have toughness to be able to cover and match the game today.
Yeah, and James, it was 5 games played in 2019, missed all of 2020 there, but was able to play in 15 games for 2021. So only 36 games played in a 4-year career since being a first-round draft pick in 2018. But I think you make the good point there about how you can find guys later, because of the list you hear, you have the 5 blue chips, the 5 red chips. Only 3 of those guys were first-round picks. You had Fitzpatrick and James, first-round picks in 2018, then Harrison Smith, the first-round pick in 2012. But this past year in the draft, Michael, in 2022, we saw 3 safeties go in the first round in Hamilton, Hill, and Seen. Do you think the league is now trending toward this safety position being more valuable? Because in the past, we've seen that it's been all about the money 5 positions: quarterback, wide receiver, left tackle, pass rusher, cornerback. But safety now almost feels like the league is now starting to take notice of having an impact guy can really make a difference on your defense.
Well, I think this, though, Femi, like Hamilton, can he cover? Is he going to be able to cover? Now, all my Notre Dame fans say he can cover, but when I watch him, I'm not sure he can cover. So I don't know if I would use a first round draft pick on a safety that couldn't cover. And I mean, look, you got to find a guy. I mean, look, the Browns, we had Jordan Poyer sitting right there, and they didn't re-sign him to a deal. Micah Hyde, they gave a modest contract to when he left the thing. So I think, to me, unless it's a safety that you really think can dominate the game in coverage and create problems, Mathau's a third-round pick, right?
Yep.
I mean, so like, to me, at Chin, I think Chin's a really good player. Dugas, I would probably say we got to be able to find guys that have similar value in later rounds and save ourselves some money. I just don't see it. To me, I think safety is somewhat of a replaceable position. I'm not saying that there isn't great players, but I think that, when you get a guy like, if you're Mike Tomlin, for example, Mike Tomlin really wants a safety. That's why he traded a first-round pick for Fitzpatrick. I mean, that's the cornerstone of his defense. That's what he wants. Now, if that's what you got to have to build your defense, then you got to sign him.
Yeah. And to me, I think safety is one of those positions to where if you have an elite guy, it really makes a difference. But if you have a bad player, it really makes
you can't play. You're going to give up big plays.
You're going to give a massive big play. I mean, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. We've been looking for a safety since Darren Woodson retired. Like this is a position that they just have not been able to fill there. But I think even being in the Pacific Northwest and watching those Seahawks teams with Earl Thomas back in his heyday and what that meant to that Legion of Boom secondary, he was such a difference maker back then. It allowed them to do so many different things on the back end of their defense to where, I mean, it almost unlocks. Like, it may seem as a luxury because you mentioned it's a little bit of a replaceable position, especially compared to the money 5 positions. But if you have that guy, it kind of unlocks the defense to another level.
It saves you, right? We had Eric Turner. We picked him second overall in Cleveland, and he would make up for so many sins. And we had Stephon Moore, who was a really good player. That was the year we only gave up 204 points in 16 games. I mean, and the longest run that was against us was 24 yards. That was because of those 2 safeties. If you're Cincinnati, you drafted Daxton Hill because you're basically going to put him in at the safety position and you're not going to pay Bates, right?
Yeah.
I think the Minnesota took Lewis Sign to basically replace Harrison Smith at some point, right? So they know that it's expensive. I just think when you get a guy that has great range on the football and can cover up. I mean, think about the Super Bowl in 2017 when the Rams played the Patriots, and the Patriots made that play across the field where the safety came and knocked the ball out when it looked like Brandon Cook was going to score, right? Yeah. I think McCourty came across the field to make that play. That's the kind of play that you got to have from your safety. Range, the ability to be a center fielder and cover the gaps. It's really important.
Yeah, Devin McCourty is another guy who did not make the list. And maybe if we do this 3-4 years ago, he's probably at least on the red chips. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think he never was he's a great leader. I think part of his is great leader, great human, great tackler, but not always the most instinctive player with the ball. but he's really good. And I would definitely say he was at least a red chip. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I just think it's fascinating. And before we get to another break here, 5 of the blue chips all come from the AFC, and 4 of the red chips, 4 out of the 5 red chips come from the NFC. Almost kind of giving us a little hint about what the conference, which one is the better conference of the two there, knowing that the AFC, for a lot of people, in the perception at least, is the better conference. But just to recap, the blue chips are Kevin Byard of the Tennessee Titans, who Michael believes is the best safety in football, and his resume would back that up with multiple first-team All-Pros. Justin Simmons of the Denver Broncos, Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Pittsburgh Steelers, then Derwin James of the LA Chargers, and Micah Hyde of the Buffalo Bills. So those are the blue chips for the safeties. Write them down, know them, because come fall, we will definitely be talking about these guys on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, whichever days the NFL decides to play on. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.